What is Kindred? Who can beat Kindred in Runeterra? And can Kindred even die? The weirdest thing about Kindred is that we do not technically know how Kindred even came to be or how it became the god of death. But we have a really strong tale about Kindred's origin story, which is called the Pale Man with Dark Hair. This pale man was very lonely because he had no friends. So one day he decided to split himself into two. It is a bit extreme, but he did this so he would always have a friend. What he became was two different things: a lamb and a wolf. Kindred itself has no gender, but lamb is a she and wolf is a he. Kindred will meet you when you are about to die. It does it differently depending on if the lamb meets you or the wolf. The lamb is the calm marksman that swiftly and painlessly ends the life of those that accept death. However, if you choose to not accept death, then the wolf will approach you. So anyone who does not fall to the lamb will have to deal with the violent death given by the wolf. And side note, Fiddlesticks is the evidence as to why the Grey Man tale could be correct, as Fiddlesticks calls Kindred the Grey Man. There is also a story written by Riot called Finishing Sotes, which tells us that potentially Kindred can actually die. The story is about performing a play in the theatre of a famous playwright called Sotes. The problem is that this script stops without an ending and no one knows how to finish it. So in the beginning of this story, we see a bunch of actors trying to perform this play, and they are struggling to do so until they are approached by a weird old lady who asks them to wear masks while performing. The masks are meant to embody the spirits of death, and the actors are a bit reluctant to wear the masks at first, but eventually they give in. Once they wear them, we find out the masks are actually associated with Kindred. Some look like a lamb, some look like a wolf, and the other masks just look like other death-linked spirits. And weirdly, when the actors put the masks on, they are essentially possessed by these forces. At that moment, the play stops being a normal performance. It becomes weird, as the actors are now speaking and moving as if they are the spirits themselves. Like literally, imagine someone being a lamb on stage out of nowhere. That shit would be creepy. We then see a man called Tarnold, who is also an actor wearing the most mysterious mask of them all. However, after wearing this specific mask, he is able to see the ending of the play written by Sotes. And the ending is very odd, as there is an actor called Duart who is looking for Tarnold backstage. He cannot find him and all he sees is a book on the floor called The Lambs of the Orchard. And in that book there is a new line written in Tarnold's handwriting: "The end is not for those who wear no masks. She showed me and it was beautiful." That is it. The story ends there. All the actors with the other masks freeze on stage, whereas Tarnold, he is now gone forever. I guess he died as a result of trying to find out the ending of the play, and we assume that Sotes also tried to finish off the play but couldn't, and probably died in a similar way to Tarnold. The story is weird, but there is a few main takeaways from it. Firstly, that Kindred are not just the god of death, but stories shaped by culture, belief and memory. Kindred essentially exists in many ways. Secondly, the use of masks shows us that Kindred is seen differently by different people, but the main idea that death is inevitable remains constant. Let me explain the second point in more detail. Basically, not everyone in Runeterra sees Kindred as a lamb and wolf. Different nations see Kindred differently. It depends on how the myth around a nation is said about Kindred. For example, if someone imagines Kindred as a dog, then Kindred will look like a dog. The final thing this story tells us is that Kindred's power depends on being remembered and believed in. And this is very important, as there is a certain spirit in Runeterra called the Etherfiend, and this spirit can actually kill Kindred. In Runeterra, a spirit is alive through people believing in that spirit. That can be through worshipping, myths, fear, etc. If everyone in Runeterra started to not believe in the idea of death, then the need for Kindred would disappear. And in that specific scenario, Kindred would be forgotten and weakened, therefore Kindred would be eaten by the Etherfiend. And in case I forgot, the Etherfiend's literal role is to kill spirits that are forgotten. And you might think this makes no sense, but imagine in Runeterra there is a lot of immortal beings. Those immortal beings technically will not believe in death. So if everyone mortal died and the immortal beings were only left, technically Kindred would be forgotten or not believed in, so he would die. So all in all, the most interesting question is, who can actually beat Kindred in Runeterra? I'm going to assume you think Aurelion Sol can, as he is the creator of the universe and basically the god who created the aspects in Runeterra, or you might even say Fiddlesticks, the baddest demon and the most evil rat in all of Runeterra. And maybe you might even say all of these people on screen. However, I believe Kindred beats everyone. as Riot has confirmed that everyone in reality, gods or not gods, will eventually die.